Well, hello again. You survived another one. Good for you, Russ Gibb, jumping up and down. Well, let me tell you, I had a very interesting breakfast Saturday over at Dimitri's. I met with Deep and Rod Alawan. Now, both of them are ex-students of mine. Both are writers. Well, Rod was more of a TV guy. He was up at WJR's TV station in Flint for many years. Super guys, and they both gave me hell. They said, you know, Russ, your problem is you go on too much. You talk too long. So I bought a couple of things, and I'll cut it off at about 9 something. This thing will go off, I hope, to remind me to shut my big mouth up. They said people don't want to hear you that much, but it was a very interesting conversation to have with. It's one of the benefits of being a teacher. Because everybody thinks, oh, I remember a great teacher I had, blah, blah, blah. But it goes the other way, too, that those of us that are teachers, all our lives, we get calls and letters and bump into our ex-students. And that's one of the real benefits of being a teacher. It has nothing to do with salary. It has with the marvelous young people that you meet and how they grow and how much smarter they get than you as the teacher. And that's what's happened with Deep. He has I don't know if you watched him, he has probably the best blog on the city of Dearborn that I know of. If you want to know what's going on Dearborn, it says, Deep Said What? DEEP what? Deep Said What? That's a play on words, of course, because his first name is Said, and then, of course, that's spelled SAID, I guess. I know I could spell it, I think that's what it is. And we got talking about television, what I used to teach and the internet. And it turns out that both these guys, both newspaper writers, Cy doing columns sometimes in the Times Herald, and Rod Alawan writing Rod writes for the Times Herald, and Cy writes columns once in a while for the Press and Guide. And they both don't watch local television, nor do I. It's gotten so bad that, if you never want to go to Detroit, turn on television. Everything is negative, negative, negative. Sort of like the Russ Gibb show, everything, complaining, my blog, all about. But it was interesting because both guys have a lot of criticism of the way news is delivered today. And, we were talking about polling and how that's rather interesting because it's how you ask the question. Not only how you ask the question, but where you ask the question. If you ask somebody, the way you word the polling question, or if you can do it anonymously, that's one thing. If they know who you are, or if you're in a group, what are you going to say if there's 20 other people sitting around you? I'm all for integration. I'm a free thinker. I believe that everybody is is equal. But if you got them privately and said, well, would you live in the middle of downtown Detroit? Well, yeah, maybe downtown Detroit, but how about 7 Mile? Well, the answers would be different. And that's the problem they're going to have with polling, because you have gender and sex. You have gender with Clinton, and sex, and what have I got it wrong with? Gender and sex. Help me out. Gender and race, that's what I'm trying to say, because you got race with Obama, and you have sex with Hillary. And they're going to have a hell of a time. The pollsters think that the reason they've been wrong so often is the timing. They're not close enough to the actual election, and things can change. No, they've got it all wrong. It's how you ask the question, where you ask the question, when you ask the question, and how you ask the question. That's where you find out. Because many people, will say publicly that they're this or they're that. But in the privacy of their home, or where they don't think they're being recorded, they might say something totally different. Well, that's my opinion. What's yours? We got also talking about technology. And we were talking about how hard it is for immigrants to become Americanized today. And we are talking about the internet. Excuse me. The internet, the good and the bad. Now, for instance, Tomas, our exchange student, Albert and I, he's from Slovakia. He just graduated from the University of Michigan, and with his degree in management. and we've had Tomas for over 5 years. And the interesting thing is, every night he talks to his parents on the phone, or if he feels like it, he can turn on the internet, see them, hear them. They can see him, and vice versa. And then he can turn on all the local news shows or comedy shows or whatever in his country by just on the internet. He does not have to. It's harder for him to become Americanized, as far as I'm concerned. And I've criticized Tomas many times on this. I said, you know, you've got the American dream down pat, and you've got the American educational system down pat, but you don't have your language. You still have a very heavy accent. And I think it's because every night he can speak with his people, his friends in Slovakia, the same way. And then Rod and Cy said, well, that's the same way with some of the Arab folks and some of the Polish folks and some of the Russian folks. You don't have to become Americanized today, and that's a problem of the internet. Now, one of the benefits, of course, is the fact that you can see other cultures and hear other cultures and get different opinions on you know, what's going on as you as you tune in on the internet. In fact, this particular show will be the first show that I'll put on the Your Tube or My Tube or Your Boob or I don't know what they call it, some kind of. And it has to be under 10 minutes. That's one reason why Cy was giving me the business, saying you talk too much, Gibb. Well, I agree with that. He's absolutely right, because most of us like short little things and what's going on. But so I'll try and do better. You know, I'm working at it. Give me a break. I do not know why I start coughing when I get on. I've all morning never cough, never let out a cough. Get on here and I start hacking away. I think I'll have a drink. Oh yeah, you like this cup? That's my dog. That's his license plate. That's blackout. A cup with a license. Probably spilled that when I move my hand around or something like that. Got talking about the candidacy of Obama. And I think all of us agree that he's not fully vetted yet. Now, that's a term, you know, a term that reporters like to use, where we don't know everything about him. You know, all of a sudden, here's a guy out of nowhere. Well, yeah, 2 years or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he made a major speech for Kerry. And, of course, Kerry wanted the black vote back then, and he needed the black speaker. And Obama is unquestionably the guy with the best speaking ability of all the candidates today, bar none. Very, very, very best. But we don't know a lot about him. For instance, do you know he had a brother? Probably has 2 or 3 brothers, because his father, who was a Kenyan, and had 3 wives, and so I'm sure he has more than one brother. But there's a couple of them that when the word gets out about what they've been up to, people are going to take another look at Obama. And of course, his cousin, Odinga, is the guy that didn't make the presidency, ran for president of Kenya, and then started to fight. And there's all kinds of things going on that. In fact, I'm going to put up on my web a BBC report where they really go into the relationship of Obama, because as you know, his dad was a Muslim. And that's why his middle name is Hussein. It's named after his dad. Logical. But there's so much we don't know about him, and we don't know much about his Chicago things, and you know, there's a lot of questions on this guy that hasn't been opened up yet. If the Democrats don't do it, and of course they're playing nicey nice right now, kiss and make up, Hillary and him, but when it gets down to push and shove, watch out. They'll really start letting go, and the newspapers and TV guys will start digging into Obama's background. And then, of course, if they don't do a good job, you can bet your bottom that the old Republicans, they'll come in, and it'll all be done sideways, you know, because nobody wants to be called a racist. Nobody wants to be called a racist. But don't you find it interesting? I find it fascinating. In fact, I'm going to write something on it, that it's mostly white guys, rich white guys, it's a time, that are back of Obama. Hey, for those of you time to take a listen, thank you. For those of you that said goodbye, Gibb, a long time ago, that's okay. I'll be back one of these days. Behave yourself. Most of all, though, I'd like to thank you for just being you.